Hey guys, it's Adam from Lucid Pixel, and I am in the presence of somebody who has left me starstruck in the last 7 days. I only discovered him, embarrassingly, 7 days ago when one of my listeners, one of the subscribers to my channel, Lucid Pixel, recommended this guy who's on the other line. I'm literally having a bit of a fan moment here. I have Bobby Rebholz with me today, a fellow absolutely phenomenal creature designer who has taught me in this very short period of time that I have a lot to learn. He's thrown me back into beginner mode, and I've never been more excited about drawing in my entire life. I've been completely binging on his stuff. To all of you artists who want to learn about discipline, who want to learn about all of those fantastic techniques and those little nuances on design, that the questions everybody always wished they had answered and can spend decades without getting answers to, listen closely and take notes. And if you're a creature designer, then, well, you're about to be treated. So I'm going to shut up. Bobby, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Adam. Thank you. And thank you for having me on here. It's good to finally meet you. And over the past, I would say 7-8 years, I have watched your videos and listened to you. I've just never commented on your videos. So now here we are. So hi.
So thank God I don't feel guilty now. It's your fault that I didn't discover you earlier. Actually, you know what? I have a couple of, we kind of sat down behind the scenes. Bobby and I sat down behind the scenes. We wanted to figure out some things to chat about, but I actually thought of a few opening questions for you first. Some important opening questions because I want to know stuff about your background on a more personal level that kind of created the foundation to who you are today. Okay? However, before I do that, in my videos, one of the things that I've started including, and one of the reasons why you and I are talking today, is I've listed out all of these art YouTubers. Anybody and everybody is there in it. And I always encourage my listeners, if you go through that list in my description and you do not see one of your favorite art YouTubers, let me know in the comments and I'm going to add them to the list. So yeah, I just want to, just a shout out to anybody, make those recommendations, because as you can tell by this podcast right now with me and Bobby having this amazing conversation, that's all thanks to you guys. Okay, so that's my first recommendation. Now, enough talking from you, because you're my guest here, okay? I want to start with personal questions, Bobby, okay?
Sure.
So get ready to open up a can of emotion here. Okay. First question, and these are kind of personal too. What year were you born?
1980.
Oh, so I'm older than you. That's excellent. So you're like a youngin'. I was 1975. Okay, now I'm asking that question because what are your earliest childhood memories? What kind of stuff really marked you artistically when you were a young kid? What kind of stuff did you watch?
Well, I was one of the lucky ones where my parents allowed me to watch pretty much every rated R horror movie known to man.
Respect to your parents.
American Werewolf in London had a lot to do with shaping who I am, because I loved the werewolf. Rick Baker's one of my favorite makeup artists, and by the time it was 1986, 1987, I had already seen all the Freddy Kruegers, all the at the time Critters, Ghoulies, Predator came out in 87. I was like, Aliens, and that shaped, I think, who I was. And those were, I would have to say, probably the earliest movie memories.
Oh my God, you've literally named my entire childhood. That's insane. I mean, as soon as you said that, all of a sudden, now I want to go and watch these movies now. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, and Goonies too? Oh my God, I haven't heard
Goonies, Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
And even the old games, man. I didn't really start to get into a ton of games until late 80s, but I was playing Air Fortress, got into Double Dragon.
Oh God.
I was into huge, fighting games actually before I went into first-person shooters. But Yeah, man. Those games were no joke.
They weren't. Yeah, actually, I'm curious. Did you ever get being an artist? Did you ever get a chance to play the game Dragon's Lair or Space Ace? Dragon's
Lair, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Dirk the Daring. Yeah.
Now you're bringing back memories, man.
Did you? How much money did you blow on that game?
Honestly, I can't remember. I don't know how much money I blew on it, but I just remember seeing all the art for it and just being amazed by it, just over and over. I would just watch it, so it was great.
Yeah. That's insane. And it's funny too, you made me feel very nostalgic. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with The Nightmare on Elm Street, so much to the point that I actually fashioned myself my own Freddy Krueger glove with butter knives, of course, because I wasn't allowed to use sharp knives for it, right? But I did it. I actually made one, which was pretty cool. I used to think it was like the coolest design ever, that cool glove. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Excellent start. Okay, so my next question is, who raised you and how did your guardians/parents influence your upbringing as a person and as an artist? I'm curious in both, actually.
Yeah, so, I mean, at the time, my parents were together and they both raised me, but they both allowed me to draw. And if I told, like, my mom if I needed to go to the store to get a sketchbook, we would go to the mall, to Walgreens, to, at the time, Super X or whatever the store was, and we would just buy cheap paper. You know, I remember going to my cousin's because she babysat us and everything, and we would go to the closet, and she had this printer paper, this blue printer paper, and I would just, the first things I ever drew were a bag of dinosaurs. So, and then I was drawing army men. It was, I don't know why I would put those two together, but that's what I drew.
Really? So you started actually with creatures quite young. You actually got into the whole dinosaur thing really, really early on.
Yeah, I was 4 when I started.
Yeah. So you got an early education there. Okay. Okay, so that's a perfect follow-up to my next question, actually, because this is something. Being a creature designer, and you're a very different type of creature designer than me, in the sense that this is what's so enlightening about your work, and which is really kind of giving me this big, kind of like, it's opening my mind to a lot of other different types of learning that I'm very amateur to, is your relationship with animals and insects growing up. Are you the type of kid who is obsessed with them? And I'm curious how you treated them, what your emotional relationship with animals and creatures were growing up.
Yeah, man, I was obsessed with bugs. I'm not even gonna lie about it. I was obsessed with insects. Anytime I went to the Cincinnati Zoo, that's where I'm from, not the zoo, but I would want to go to the insect house first. Anytime I went there, and I was just fascinated with them, and then couple that with dinosaurs. So I think seeing those two things at an early age is what allowed me to morph my creatures into half insect, half mammalian looks. And I totally get it. It's creepy, but I don't care. I love it. And man, that's what influenced me. Dinosaurs and insects, I loved them both. I was obsessed with them. Oh my gosh. I've kind of fallen out of touch with dinosaurs, though. I have to get back in touch with that.
Well, I wouldn't say entirely, because I watching a lot of your videos and stuff. I was actually watching a dragon video today where you were talking about the anatomy of the wings, and you were talking about like all these different parts, names. Like, I mean, I study and teach anatomy, and this is all stuff I've never heard before, which again was exciting. I love not knowing this stuff, and I love being schooled here. But I mean, your knowledge of it is pretty awesome. Like, just the naming and the different species and the different features of them. Like, where did that start coming into your learning curve?
That aspect, probably high school.
High school, okay.
Yeah, it was more towards my senior year of high school, because at the time, my teachers were like, hey, you should get into, industrial design and designing products and all of that. I'm like, okay, cool. Because at the time, I mean, I have to go back in time now. I graduated in 99, and at that time, the phrase or the term concept art really wasn't as big as it is now.
No, not really, no.
Yeah, at all. So I didn't know about creature design or concept art, but I was still studying animal parts and just reading up all the fossil books and just trying to overflow my brain with that kind of knowledge. And it would actually bleed into the products that I was designing in school and stuff. It's pretty wild. Could separate the two.
Yeah. Well, you, like, just listening to your stuff, you really kind of turn people on to the subject of creature anatomy. You really do. And, but I'm curious, growing up, what turned you on to it? What got you, like, can you think of any moment in your life where it started to, you started to get really, really intrigued about the subject on a more professional, more profound level? Or was it just something inherent in your personality? Like, where did all that come from?
I think going out in nature, I just remember camping. My dad took us camping, me and my sister, and he was not afraid to just take us into the woods, and we would just walk down the creek and we would find, like, oh, look, there's a deer skull, or hey, there's a turtle shell, and I would be fascinated by that stuff. And those early images of, like, the bones and stuff, it never left me. So then couple that with us going to the Natural History Museum whenever they would have a dinosaur exhibit, and I would see the animatronics, and then I would see it move, and I'm just like, animals are awesome. That's just it was never a profound moment, but it was more of like a gradual build up, and then it just kind of exploded. Probably, I don't know, probably like mid 20s, I guess. That's yeah.
Why? What happened there? What was happening in your life that kind of made you decide to flick the switch?
Well, I think that's when I really took freelancing seriously. Because I graduated having studied industrial design and car design and stuff, but I knew I wasn't happy. So after graduation, even during my final years in school, I would just keep studying concept art for games, and I would see that, like, the reason people suck is because they don't have creature anatomy. They just start making everything up all the time. And I started thinking, wait a second, I've been obsessed with animals all my life and monsters and movies and stuff. I gotta start taking it seriously. And as soon as I did, that's when I started getting the better gigs. I'll never forget that. Like, my first really good one was the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't know if you remember that show called Face Off. Remember that?
Face Off.
When was that? It was that makeup show. Neville Page was part of the host, and there was a couple other artists there. But
I bet you'll remember if I see it.
Yeah, it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and they did a lot of creature makeups and stuff. And they, you know, I worked with them for several years. I wasn't on the show, but they asked me to draw for the show, just like concepts and stuff. Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, so that studying of anatomy actually paid off. One of the reasons why they hired me for it was because of my anatomy knowledge. So,
and this is in your 20s?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, 30s.
Your 30s. Okay, at this point,
sorry.
You're in your 30s. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so I started realizing, like, a light bulb went off. The better the anatomy, the more I know about it, then the better jobs I'm going to get. And it just kind of bounced from there. So
it's funny you're saying that. You know, I know a lot of artists, many artists, who put off anatomy for whether a character designer or a creature designer. They put it off because maybe it's the way it's. I think for me, one of the things that could have turned people off or scared people away from anatomy is very often when I was a kid, or, you know, in my 20s and 30s, going to the bookstore and getting books on art, you'd see these dynamic anatomy books or these other books, and they're just so high level. They were so intensely well done that it scares you off. It's it's like reading a book on advanced astrophysics, and you don't even know what a star is yet, right?
Yeah.
So that can really scare people away from anatomy, when in fact anatomy fundamentally is very straightforward and it's very learnable. Like for me in my anatomy class, a lot of my students, I'm sure you can say the same for your students as well, is within 1 or 2 weeks of going through the material, they've got the fundamentals. We're talking a couple of weeks. They understand, they know what's there, they know what muscles belong where the bones are. And then you just take the time as years pass and you practice it, you refine it until eventually you become much more advanced at anatomy. But I know artists. Well, a good example would be my mother. I don't mean to call out my mom, but I'm going to call her out. I remember I talk about sometimes how I was at her place and she was talking about, her lower back was hurting a little bit. And I said, where does it hurt specifically? And she said, oh, here. And I said, oh, your sacrum. And she said, she goes, don't use those fancy words with me. And I'm like, Mom, you paint people for a living. You don't know what a sacrum is? Really? And she goes, oh, shut up. She gave me a dirty look and told me to shut up. I mean, and that's very common. I mean, it doesn't take away from her skill as an artist. She's an incredible artist, but you know what I mean? It's like, It's amazing how we put things off out of fear. And honestly, for anybody listening, I would start with animal anatomy or start with human anatomy. I think that maybe human anatomy is a little bit more relatable to a lot of people, where you're just learning about mammals, bipedal animals, and about the muscles and bones and tendons and all that kind of stuff and what makes that structure. And then you translate that into animals, right?
Yeah.
And you realize, holy smokes, 99% of human anatomy exists in animals as well. It's all the same naming, same thing, but when you're studying different animals, what's the difference between a horse and a lizard and a bird and a gorilla, right? They all have these different adaptations, some very similar to humans, and some different. Is the scapula on the back like a gorilla or a human, or is the scapula more along the sides, right? Like more of a cat or horse. And you start to make these comparisons. But once you have that foundation, translating that into different types of anatomy is very inviting. And you feel this comfort and this familiarity and this excitement when you learn about these different things. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Something that I just learned this week from you, okay? It's actually funny. You and a book that I got, it's Creature Anatomy, a book that I got recently. I just spoke about it on my channel. And you taught me something this week that made me go, oh my God, I didn't realize that. It made so much sense to me. I had learned the difference between, and give me the names because I can't remember them offhand because I don't use them as often as you do. I actually had a hard time pronouncing it. There is creatures who walk on their, on flat feet like humans are called... What, Bobby? I can't remember what they're called.
Plantigrade.
Plantigrade. And then, I always struggle with this word. Frick's sakes.
Digitigrade. It's like digital
digitigrade.
Grade. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. Digitigrade walk on their toes. Like, for instance, cats, right?
Yeah.
They would be considered digitigrades. But then you mentioned horses are a third type of leg type. What's that called?
Ungulagrade.
Ungulagrade?
Ungulagrade. Or ungulate.
Okay, what does that mean? I'm not sure what that means.
It means that they walk on hooves, basically.
On hooves.
Yeah, hooves.
And their leg structure is different as a result of that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What's different? Like, what would be because this is something that's just dawning on me now because I don't have that experience with quadrupeds as you do. So what would be a couple of fundamental differences between, let's say, a cat's hind leg and a horse's hind leg?
Well, it's actually really in the feet.
Okay.
Because like both cats and horses and just quadrupeds in general, the ankles are so much higher. Mm-hmm. And with a let's see, plantigrade, digitigrades walk on their toenails basically. So an elephant is technically a digitigrade. Oh, and really? They're not plantigrades.
Oh, so what? Their heels are all squishy?
Yes, but they still place all of their weight on their toes in order to push off of them.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but their feet
when you look at them,
hold flat on the ground though, don't they?
They do hold.
Remember elephant joint as well?
They do hold flat. Now I don't know. Okay. I don't know super in depth about why that happens for them, but like with a bear, with people, typically our heels hit first.
Yeah.
And then, so it's pretty crazy, man. And speaking of creature design, I think one of the biggest things that young creature designers miss is differentiating those, types of feet and hands, for that matter, with their creatures. They don't know what to put there. So it's one of the reasons why they look stiff, and it's one of the main reasons why all of their creature feet are pointed in the same direction.
Yeah. Because if I'm not mistaken, again, I'm purely, this is my own personal indulgence here. I'm asking questions, but I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from this too. When animals walk, when quadrupeds are walking, I know for humans walk with a bit of a triangular shape with their feet, right? Their toes point slightly outwards. In fact, if a human walks with their toes pointing completely forwards, it can give them a bit of a heavy bob, right?
Yeah.
It's an unnatural way to walk. We usually roll on the outside of the foot to the big toe. But on a quadruped, that's different. Do quadrupeds have their feet slightly pointed outwards too, or more directly forward, depending on the situation? They don't rotate their feet, do they?
I don't know if they rotate their feet, honestly, but some of them may push it outwards. I've seen dogs do it. I mean, you could just see them when they walk. Hippos, their feet point out too.
They do, yeah.
A lot of that, though, like the direction of where your feet are pointing has to do with your hip. It's not your feet. So it's like the placement of all, like your hip joint and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting too. You're saying this as an artist, right?
Yeah.
So what this means is you're thinking and exploring the physical body with a pencil. You're exploring with your hands and your mind. But you could be just as easily giving a dance lesson right now, because when you're learning dance, what they teach in dance on day one is and animation too, I might add. If you're an animator as well, this is something you learn. All movement starts at the hip, and understanding the physics of the human body, or four-legged animal, or any animal for that matter, helps you draw better, because you're understanding where you're not just drawing a shape, you're drawing a movement, you're drawing weight, you're drawing dynamics. Like, I'll give you an example. Something that I learned from you is all of this knowledge is brand new to me. Like, I'm just starting to decode it right now. But that animals will have a, quote, stabilizing leg, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was, oh my God, that's fascinating. So they're going to have, another question is, if animals are stabilizing their legs, they're going to have a front and a back part to them, right?
Yes.
So does that mean they're going to have a back and a front stabilizing leg? And are these generally, I imagine they're opposing legs diagonally?
Yeah, it all depends on how you're going to balance your body. I'll have my students, when they walk or drive down the street, just observe human beings standing at a bus stop or just on their phone doing something. So we all have that planted leg, which is our center of gravity. That's where most of the weight is distributed to. So same thing happens with a quadruped, same thing happens with an 8-legged crazy creature from another planet. Weight distribution is massive. So you can even see it in squirrels just bouncing through your grass in your front yard. They all have that one leg that they sit on and they want to turn on. Same thing with rabbits when they're looking for food. It's crazy how you see it everywhere. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I love about drawing. I mean, I've learned this with color. I've learned this with drawing. I've learned this with anatomy. I've learned this with all these different types of things. That art is the greatest means to learn how to see.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'll give you an example. I remember being in art school, for instance, art history. And my soul was prepared to hate art history because high school history sucked. Bad things, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying not to swear, but I'm going to end up swearing. I have a bad tongue, but
it's okay.
I remember I ended up flunking my high school history, and I ended up having to get a tutor to help me pass it. But I went into fine arts. My original education was in fine arts, and I remember walking into art history class going, all right, here we go. Just, take a deep breath and dive in. it ended up being my favorite freaking class. And one of the reasons being is, one of the things that really fascinated me was the evolution of human sight and art and color, and how we've discovered how if you look at early paintings and how they evolved, how these new principles, these different mediums, these different understandings started to really revolutionize how we created images, right?
Yeah.
And for instance, was the first time I ever discovered the difference between warm and cool in shadows and light. All of a sudden, I swear to God, I walked out of my college, out of the department that I was in, and I went outside to have a cigarette, because I was a smoker back then, Bobby. Don't judge me, okay? And I went to have a smoke, and I was downtown, which is literally the least visually stimulating environment in the world. Are concrete gray buildings, like, bleh, right?
Yeah.
But seeing for the first time the sunlight hitting, it was a nice sunny day, and seeing the sunlight hitting and noticing that it wasn't white and black, it was actually yellows and blues and teals. And I went, oh my God, I can see color. And then to add insult to injury, I'm sitting there, and then the next class we had after that is where my teacher was talking about atmospheric light. And I learned all about the science of atmospheric light, how blue light scatters around the environment because they're bouncing off of all these particles, and that light is infiltrating exposed shadows. And all of a sudden I'm seeing blue light in shadows and black shadows underneath objects. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this is gorgeous. And I'm staring at the same bloody thing I'd been staring at for 6 months until it clicked. And the same thing is applying here. Like you mentioned this silly little thing about watching a squirrel. I have little rabbits. I have a little baby rabbit in my yard now because his mom just had babies. So I watch him graze, and squirrels and all kinds of things. And I'm literally sitting here listening to you express this and thinking to myself, I can't wait to go and start observing them again. Because no, I haven't noticed that, quote, stabilizing leg thing. To me, this is a really big deal, right? Yeah. It really unlocks a lot of cool shit. Yeah.
And the other reason why I stress it so much is because when aspiring artists start putting creatures in their portfolio and they're wondering why they're not getting hired, it's not just making your stuff look cool. It doesn't matter nearly as much as the 3D department taking your stuff and having to sculpt that, because the sculptors, they're not usually 2D artists, so they'll sculpt whatever you draw to a T. And you have to be able to convey, like, oh, that's where the hip is going to jut out a little farther because, this creature has deteriorating hip syndrome. I don't know. So, weight's big. Weight's big in the legs. It is.
Yeah, you say that a lot too. I listen to a lot of your videos, and you're very often talking about, you have to think, it's not just about doing stuff that looks cool. This is going, especially in a professional setting, this is going to end up in the hands of somebody who needs to understand it and need to model it three-dimensionally. So having that knowledge, that understanding of three-dimensional shapes is a very, very big deal. This is actually one of the topics that you and I had kind of brainstormed beforehand, is that big aha moment, that big discovery that your brain needs to churn out when you're making that transition from just kind of starting out drawing to starting to become more of a professional, is developing that understanding of three-dimensional shape.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do we translate, how do we create the illusion, how do we understand three-dimensionality on a 2D page, right?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that? Like, just if you're speaking to younger aspiring artists, tell me more about the importance of that.
Well, whenever you're, and this goes for product design too, it's whenever you're sketching as a concept artist, you have to be able to show your creation in multiple views, because you are the front line of offense when it comes to a project. So and I'm speaking just from being part of bigger studios where there's multiple people needing you to do your job. And if you can draw one product or one creature or one character in 5, 6, 7 different views, you're answering questions already that they probably would have to ask you later, and you don't want them to have to ask questions. So one of the greatest things that my instructor told me in college was that you did a good job on your presentation when you can print it out and hang the entire thing up on the wall and have a group of people walk over to it, and you don't have to say anything and they understand everything. That's when you know. That's why certain projects, like on ArtStation, when you see these just, I mean, not just beautiful final renderings, but also the concepts that go behind it, all the questions are answered. Oh, look at that. There's a helmet, but I see the side, the front, the top. Okay, this person can do orthographics. Great. Creature. You know, one of the reasons why I love looking at like Stephen Oakley and artists like that, because they'll do creatures, but it's like, oh, there's the same horn, but in a different angle. So now we get it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's funny what you're saying too, is I remember, because you're old enough to remember, to really have experienced this transition in the industry emotionally, right? You were there, you probably experienced it, especially being a 2D artist, when 3D was launched on the world. Yeah. And a lot of people kind of will argue, justifiably, they'll argue, well, you can't compare what artists experience with 3D to what's happening now with artificial intelligence. And by the way, I don't want to go down the artificial intelligence thing because I don't want to give it any more airtime than those tech bros want it to. I'm done with it. I'm bored. But just speaking 3D, just that experience of learning 3D at the beginning when it first happened, people were terrified, you know, like 2D art, and justifiably too, because 2D art really did take a kick in the butt, right? And a lot of us, myself included, a lot of us had to, well, adapt, man. You know, 3D's there. And a lot of us were afraid that eventually what's going to happen is 3D won't need 2D anymore. It's going to become obsolete, and the future is graphic. And that was a very dark thought for a lot of us artists who grew up on like Brian Froud and Chuck Jones and you know, MC Escher and all that kind of cool stuff. But it didn't happen. What we started to learn a couple of years later, and my unbreaking optimistic self believes now, and I'm starting to experience now, is computers can't replace human creativity and human vision. That vision belongs to people. That vision belongs to human beings. And 3D was just a tool that, as you just described, is pretty useless without the vision of the artist. Yep. And what ended up happening is, if 3D did contribute anything to the artist, it was that it forced us to become more technically sound when it came to three-dimensional form, particularly for people who were illustrators. Animators needed to have that nailed down. Like when I was studying animation, if you make a little mistake in your three-dimensional form and you press play, well, then the eyeballs start flying around all over the page, right? So you have to be able to fix that. This is something you learn on day one of animation. But for anybody who's just an illustrator, all of a sudden you're going, oh, I really have to get my three-dimensional form in check, and drawing three-dimensionally and sculpting three-dimensionally, I'll get it, give me a chance, okay, became a much more valued skill. And then to be able to make that transition from three-dimensionality and start to get artistic again, start to get creative, start to get abstract and have fun with it, get that looseness of three-dimensional form. It didn't kill the 2D artist. It just evolved and matured the 2D artist's role in an evolving world, right?
100%.
And I like to believe that still exists. I still feel like it still exists. I feel like the novelty of recent tech that will go unnamed, that novelty to me is, I imagine that when you go on Pinterest or something like that, you see it, it's there, right? And you're like, whatever. And you move on and you just open up your sketchbook and you keep drawing, right? Yeah. It hasn't knocked off your momentum. But do you feel maybe it has a little bit? Do you feel affected by what's going on without trying to get too deep down that rabbit hole?
Honestly, man, no.
Okay, good.
Here's the thing, because I got two comments for that. One is about ZBrush and all that stuff, and then the title that I will not name of the new tech. ZBrush and Blender and Modo and all of those were never going to be anything unless the people taking control of the program could already perform artistic abilities.
Yeah.
See, it's no different than using ChatGPT to write your next screenplay. Well, if you suck at writing, ChatGPT is not going to fix that. So it might seem kind of harsh, but it's like, look, with the new tech happening now, I don't care how realistic it looks. Yeah, maybe the lighting is good. Maybe some of the, the graphics and everything are nice and slick, but like you said, if you don't put that human element into it, it's going to be horrible all the time. And there's always going to be that missing element of that emotional connection. It's like people using Wacom tablet. Like, I have a Wacom tablet, man. Like, I don't even have a Cintiq. I'm that old school. Okay. And I try to tell new artists now, it's like, look, you do have this fancy tech, but if you're not comfortable with just putting pencil to paper or ink to paper, you're not developing an emotional relationship with drawing.
Right.
You're not. There's always going to be Control Z for you. So, like, okay, so to jump back into the new tech and stuff, it's like, when it comes to 2D, I think the people that are affected most negatively by the new tech are the people that never learned art. They wanted the shortcut. So they're finding out that, oh, well, this new tech is making new images for me, and it's beautiful, and I'd never be able to paint this in my life, but the art director needs me to make 5 different iterations of it, and they need me to correct stuff. Can this new tech do that for me too? And then they get into this rabbit hole of constantly relying on something else to make the decisions, and it's not pretty, man. So
no, it's not. But here's the thing too, right? And this is something that, again, watching your videos, and specifically watching you work in a sketchbook, watching you work with a 4B Faber-Castell pencil or a Bic ballpoint pen, really cheap, easy stuff, right?
Yeah.
When I did it too, because you actually got me back into my sketchbook, and that's why I emailed you today and asked you specifically about the pencils you were using as well, because I wanted to try those out as well. It's funny. It's something too that I discovered, ironically, through something that I don't do professionally. And I think because I didn't do it professionally, I had not adhered myself too much to the evolution of tech, was writing and journaling.
Yeah.
When I write and I journal, I hate journaling in an app. Like Apple has a new journaling app or whatever journaling apps. There's this disconnect when you're typing something in a journal, that it doesn't feel like it belongs to you. It feels like you're just kind of feeding an app, and that app is not a possession. Whereas when I journal, to me, the whole act of inking my pens and getting that paper that I love, like the what's it called again? It's not Arches paper. I'm thinking art paper here, but Clairefontaine paper in a Rhodia book or something like that. Like that whole culture and ritual around making that mark on a page. And if I'm pissed off and I'm venting in my journal that maybe I wrote a little bit aggressively and I got a bit of an ink spatter, and that ink spatter to me is indicating where my mind was emotionally. There's this real, I own that book, I own that possession, I own that mark. And when I got back into the sketchbook again, and not only that, but your philosophy for drawing, which is put that eraser down. You lean in. If that mark didn't go, if you left a line and it didn't go where you wanted it to, don't erase it. Don't Control Z. That Control Z is evil. Don't touch it. You instead just keep drawing. Work into it. Freestyle into that. Very much the same way you would imagine a method actor or somebody who's doing kind of like improv comedy would do a skit. Yeah. Somebody comes in and does something unpredictable, roll with it. And it's the rolling with it, and it's the adapting to the moment artistically, be it visually, be it through comedy, be it through acting, whatever, that you're really bringing this raw humanity, this impulsivity, this expressiveness that just couldn't exist if things were just overly curated. And I find, I'm sure everybody can attest to this, 99% of the artistic population, even the really, really young ones, the 5-6-year-olds, can look at two drawings, one that's this blingy, high contrast, super saturated, very polished looking generated image, next to a line drawing where the thought and the pencil and the paper and the scribbles and the redrawn lines and the weighted lines and the invisible lines and all of these different things, and you can see the whole thought process is so much more emotionally rewarding to look at, and it's more inspiring. And I find that artists, directors, creators that understand the value of that piggybacking off of spontaneity are the greatest creators. A really good example is Peter Jackson. If you ever get a chance to watch the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings, which I have many times, 85 million times. They were my lullaby to bed every single night. I watched them make the behind the scenes. I don't know if you remember this. If you watched it a lot of times, if you remember, Peter Jackson's talking about the design of Minas Tirith. Mm-hmm. And he was referencing, I believe it was John Howe's, some of John Howe's sketches of this kind of like curving road going up the side of the road. And one of these buildings, structures, which was very loosely drawn in the background, very squiggly, had this little squiggle by the door. Yeah. And Peter Jackson saw that squiggle and it made him think of a rat. And then he thought, it would make sense if we have this city, we would need somebody who's a rat catcher. So that little swirl that probably took John Howe 0.5 seconds to draw, that like incidental thing, Peter Jackson ended up going to a taxidermist and getting actual rat taxidermy and pitting him up against the thing to help inform it. And it's something that's just a background element. It's not even, you didn't even do any close-ups of this place, but just being able to go down the road and see this rat hanging off the side of the thing humanized and brought that space to life on an almost subconscious level. And your drawings, I can feel the thought in your drawing. And here's the crazy thing. I don't want to hijack this podcast. I'm sorry, Bobby, but I'm unloading everything on you today, so bear with me. Something really interesting happened in terms of learning this week as well, watching your videos. And that was because I've been so pretty much 99% digital for the last, 15, 20 years, to be honest with you. I kind of got sucked into digital very early in my career, that my brain kind of, when it came to sketchbooks and pencils, my brain paused at the day I picked up that stylus in terms of emotional artistic evolution with the pencil. And then 20 years pass, I get into digital painting and creature design and all this kind of stuff that I've been doing. Yeah. The minute I got back into my sketchbook last week, I realized my brain immediately regressed back to 20 years ago. I became a cartoonist all of a sudden. And I was watching your video just today because my cartooning exists in a pencil to me. That's where my brain left off. And I watched a video today where you were saying, if you don't want your stuff to look cartoony, stop outlining stuff. And I went, son of a bitch, I outlined my stuff. That was it. And all of a sudden I went back to my sketches and I started to mess around with the lines and started playing around with the sfumato technique, the smoky Leonardo da Vinci technique and stuff like that. And how you were drawing, you were allowing your shading to go outside of the lines to create a sense of atmosphere, aka bringing atmosphere into the drawing, not ending the shape at that contour. Oh my God. Honestly, you know what? I want to end the podcast right now. Just hang up the call and go draw. That's what I want to do. The only reason I'm not doing this is because I don't want to be rude.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, but it's like, this is a segue into something that Tim McBurney said that I want you to elaborate on, because I was watching Tim McBurney's video this week that I really loved. He had mentioned, quote, how the tool influences your style.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And I wrote, that's why one of the reasons I shared his video, because I said, this is such a big deal. Digital painting and the tools, the brushes that I've used in Photoshop really have been instrumental in the type of artist I am today. Mm-hmm. How do you feel your tool, using a pencil, using ink, using a sketchbook predominantly, right?
Yeah.
How has that influenced the type of artist that you are? How would you say it does?
Well, I think it started my senior year back in university when my instructor was telling me that I was drawing too small. And I'll never forget, because we would be standing up at the desk. I was in transportation studio, so we were drawing vehicles and stuff, and I was just drawing way too small. And she's like, Bobby, stand up. So I stood up, and I opened up my sketchbook. And she's like, that's too small. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was like 8.5 by 11. It was ridiculously small. She's like, here, take this biggie sketch pad, which is like 18 by 24. It's like, take this black Prismacolor, and I want you to use your shoulder and sketch the entire surface of the paper with just one vehicle. And as soon as I started drawing bigger, my thought process expanded. And that would never have happened had I been using a Cintiq, a tablet, or whatever, because you're confined to the space of which the digital, the area allows you to draw.
Interesting. Okay.
And the other thing, because we had mentioned this before about Control Z, when I would sketch, I was always loose with it. After she told me to do that, because I was so just minute about the details, and it was ridiculous. I wanted to jump right into them, and then I started loosening up. And once I started loosening up, I started to not care about going outside of the lines, because who was I drawing for other than me? That's why I was mentioning that sketchbooks are your diary. They're not. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I was too worried about somebody else walking by and seeing what was in my sketchbook versus what would help me become a better sketcher. So I just stopped giving a crap. Started going outside of the lines, and all of a sudden, as I was shading outside the lines, I'm like, oh wait, it looks like it belongs to the atmosphere now. And to go back to the whole cartoony thing, just to give a disclaimer, and I've had to say this before, there's nothing wrong with drawing cartoons. Absolutely nothing.
No, not at all.
Cartoons are amazing, and my kids love them and everything. But it's like, I get asked a lot, Bobby, how do I make my stuff look more realistic? And I said, just stop drawing as if it's a toy. Like people draw these shapes for creatures like they're toy joints, and they're bubbling out joints that have more shapes to them than just one single oval, or it's like shoulder joints. It's not just one ball. You got your deltoid muscles made up of 3 to 4 different sections of muscles in general, and how does it attach to the clavicle? Well, you guys aren't drawing the clavicle, okay? It's hard, I get it. It's easier said than done. Don't want to go off on a side tangent there. But...
No, please. We're here for tangents, so go for it. And at least it's not me, so please, I'm here to listen. Go for it.
Okay. The other thing you had mentioned actually at the beginning of the podcast was being overwhelmed by the terminology of anatomy and worrying about tendons and ligaments and joints and all of that. It's like, just pick one species and study that species. So if you, for example, birds, big birds, like got your emu, you got your ostrich, you can look at just ancient pictures of the terror bird or whatever you want to look at, even the oviraptor, okay, the dinosaurs, and study their skeletons. You start drawing the skeletons, and then you start doing, the muscles on top of it, and just compartmentalize your learning experience so that you can better remember it. Because I think a lot of times anatomy is so overwhelming that people just skip it, and then what ends up happening, you'll see these in people drawings where you got to draw a superhero, and then a beginner artist, it'll make the arm look like prime Ronnie Coleman, or Jay Cutler or something, with muscles on top of muscles. It's like that lump doesn't exist there. So it's better to know what that actual lump is. But okay, I'll stop.
No. Oh God, no. What you're saying is so spot on. And it's something I tell my students a lot as well, is we very often tend to think too big. I think that a lot of artists who tend to get a little bit paralyzed from drawing or practicing is because it's a huge burden. It's a huge job that requires a lot of time and energy every day. And human beings by very nature don't have the energy to go, quote, all in every day. They just don't. You're going to burn yourself out and you're going to exhaust yourself.
Yeah.
And a good example would be, meeting people that are very high demand, high energy. People want to have an intense soul conversation. Those are wonderful conversations to have sometimes, but not every day, right? Yeah. If you're around if you think you have to spend 3 days with somebody who wants to do some soul searching, that's the kind of stuff that cult leaders use to brainwash people and exhaust them into submission. Human brains are not acclimatized to that kind of stuff. So when you're thinking of practicing, like Bobby just said, you don't have to draw the whole human figure from top to bottom. Start with the clavicle. Start with the skull and the spinal column, and then do the attack. Then the next day maybe just study rib cages and pelvises and how they connect to the spine.
Yeah. And
then where's the shoulder blade fit into that? And then where does the arm fit into that? And you can take these little bite-sized pieces of information and just do these. Grab your sketchbook, sit down outside, get some fresh air, whatever. Sit down on your couch, and just do these little practices. And it might seem like these insignificant doodles, but you're actually feeding that brain of yours. Mm-hmm. And you can't unlearn this stuff. Once it's there, it's there. Whether you forget about drawing pretty stuff, forget pretty. Sketchbooks are not for pretty. Sketchbooks are for learning, exploring, like a diary, right? It's 100%. A place where you just trauma dump anything, bam, go. And one of the things that makes somebody effective at journaling, one of the things that I do as a journal when I'm journaling is I write for myself. When I'm writing in my journal, I don't give a shit what I say. I don't give a crap if I'm saying something that's going to hurt somebody's feelings. I'm just there you go. And I don't give if you pick up my journal and you pick it up and you read it and I said something hurtful towards you, it's your fault for reading it. Mind your own business. That's my attitude, right? Because I don't mean anything I'm saying. I'm just dumping it out there. Same thing applies to my sketchbook. That's where I go to be ugly. That's where I go to make mistakes. That's where I go to be an amateur. It's a very healthy mindset for an artist. And I think that working digitally and furthermore, producing artwork for the sake of making, quote, content for Instagram, not a healthy mindset. You're going to really stunt your growth. I find for me, for instance, a good example, when I'm producing YouTube videos and stuff, a lot of what I produce, like you, a lot of it ends up needing to be content for an art talk, because I'll do an art talk where either I'm talking or it's just a voiceover or whatever, and I want you to be able to watch art at the same time. It's taken me years to become comfortable with the idea of sharing my work, because sometimes I'm just not in the zone, right? 100%. So I have to be able to I had to develop a healthy relationship with not always putting my best foot forward. Not everything that I share on my channel is going to be banger artwork. Some of it I loved. Some of it sucks and I'm never going to put it in my portfolio. But I, quote, have to put it out there for the sake of, keeping the algorithm going and producing regular content. Mm. But every now and then what'll happen is I'll get so up in my head about the fact that I want this drawing to look pretty for my audience that can slowly start to poison my drawing process, and I start to become too much of a performer with my pencil, and my drawings start to suffer for it. And what I've learned to do every now and then, that's why every now and then you might watch a video and then it just kind of jumps forward in the drawing somewhere, is because I decided now, turn the recording off. It's distracting you. Just draw, explore, make mistakes, because recording is screwing up your thought process. Don't do it. For a lot of younger artists who see all this gorgeous stuff on Instagram, one of the things that I tell students and listeners and stuff like that is Instagram's a wonderful platform. It is. But it's not conducive to artistic growth or inspiration. It's conducive to distraction and self-doubt, because what you're doing is looking at a bunch of people doing beautiful, beautiful polished artwork all the time, and you're not going to find your voice that way. Finding your voice is by being yourself in your most natural form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier about just embracing the fact that it probably will suck. Look, being a concept artist, 99% of your stuff is going to look awful. Yeah. And I think a lot of aspiring artists feel that what they're envisioning in their head needs to come out on paper 100% the way they're envisioning it. And not only that, once they start applying those lines, it has to perfectly, they're thinking too far ahead, like, oh, what I'm drawing right now has to be a finished product soon. And your best work is that small little thumbnail up in the corner of your sketch pad that you kind of ignored and you didn't even number into the other set of thumbnails. That's probably your best one, because the thing about thumbnailing, the thing about sketching is like, it is a form of expression to the point where you don't even have to talk to anybody if you're feeling depressed or if you're feeling angry. It's such a form of good expression anyway. You know, because we all have those outlets. Like we'll want to go maybe take a walk, or we'll want to go to a boxing class to kind of take aggression out that way. And drawing, man, like, you're not drawing it for anybody else but yourself. Like when you journal, of course I journal too, and I'll curse in my journal, I'll be happy in my journal, I'll be sad, and it's a journey you take, because this is why I have all my students number their sketches, especially if they're taking like my online course, or they're just doing mentorships or whatever. It's to be like, hey, if we do 500 thumbnails, look at number 1 in March, and then all of a sudden look at number 400 in the end of May and June, and your thought process is going to change, and it's really cool to see it. So yeah, it's okay to be terrible. Yeah, the other thing that I would like to say to all young artists is, like, when you start drawing, don't worry about having to be good right away. I think that we have this weird time frame in our minds where, because you were talking about numbers in one of your podcasts. I remember that, and how numbers psychologically affect us. And it is so true, man. It's so true. Like, don't even get me started about the YouTube algorithm, but it's like, you know, when we think, oh man, I'm 20 years old, I got to have a job by 25, or here I am pushing 30 and I'm still not doing what I want to do. And it's like, look, Stephen King used to be a janitor in a trailer before he wrote, you know, his first book, and look what he did. So like, it doesn't really matter.
No, it really doesn't.
No.
Nobody cares too, right? Nobody ever, people get so hooked up. Like, I'm sure you hear this from a lot of younger students as well in their 20s and stuff like that. You know, I have a 25-year-old daughter and with a 25-year-old boyfriend, and you know, an artist. She's an artist herself, and especially 20-year-olds get very hung up about, quote, not being there yet. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, don't even look at the clock. Nobody cares how old you are. No. Nobody cares. I mean, my career was a total disaster for a decade and a half, for God's sake. I was chasing after something. I didn't know what the hell I was looking for, and the entire first half of my life was identity crisis, for goodness sakes. And you know, now it's starting to make sense to me a little, not really, you know. Then I watch one of Bobby's videos and I realize I have to start all over from scratch again, but you know what I'm saying. But
sorry,
it's
Adam.
Like it's very welcome, very pleasant identity crisis. But you know what I mean, don't even look at the clock. And it's funny you're saying too about kind of being indulgent and doing what feels right to you and stuff like that, and kind of saying screw what people want. That was one of the biggest epiphanies I had in my career, because I kind of got swallowed up into the gaming industry very early and felt the need to adapt myself to getting a job. And that kind of put me into this spiraling mindset of constantly chasing after the evolving industry. And because it happened at such an influential professional age, meaning I had already kind of established roots as an animator when I was a young guy, but then when I got into the industry, that kind of got completely derailed, and I went into seek mode instead of be mode. That it took me 10-15 years of chasing after careers and having all of these successes and failures, and mostly failures, I would say, that at one point in my career I said, you know what, I can't keep chasing after jobs all the time. I don't even know who I am anymore. And it was this moment of desperation and kind of this abandonment where I said, screw what anybody wants, I'm going to do what I want. And if it wasn't for that decision, confided I had professional artistic fundamentals at that point and I had established myself artistically, that I said, now it's my time. And my career took a complete 180 in 365 days because all of a sudden I was applying myself to something that had value and meaning to me. It wasn't just labor. It wasn't just work. It wasn't just living up to the demands of a director and trying to keep up with whatever somebody else wanted. It was what matters to me. And I realized how silly I was up until that point. That what I was chasing after was not only a recipe for burnout, because I wasn't being emotionally rewarded for all of this heavy work, but it wasn't sustainable over the long term. Because there's one thing about adapting yourself to the demands of others for 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, if you've got a hell of a lot of stamina.
Yeah.
Now, step back. You're in your late 20s, early 30s. You've been doing this for 5-10 years maybe.
Yeah.
Now, let's try another 60 years of that. All of a sudden you're sitting there going, oh wow, okay. It's like learning how to use a knife and going, okay, I can defend myself now. And then turning around and everybody's got machine guns. It's like, oh, okay. This wasn't what I thought at all. When you have to look at the big picture and say, somewhere down the line, yes, it's important to understand what professional fundamental skills are to be employable, but you need to apply those fundamental skills to the type of job where you feel a sense of belonging, where you feel this is my niche, this is my flow. Because if you don't, it's going to be hit and miss. It's going to be a lot of discouragement. And if and when you're not getting rewarded with that paycheck, you've got nothing to fall back on. You don't have any personal investment in what you're doing. Now, if you're a designer, that's a little bit less important, right? You're approaching it from more, to you, the technical aspect of drawing. The craft is more important than the expressive side of it. But to the other 85% of us that are artists, that expressiveness needs to play a very important part in that. How does that resonate with you?
Oh, man. Dude, you're bringing back memories because when I graduated and I was feeling good about it, I had a BS in design, so it's Bachelor's of Science in Design. I was ready to be an industrial designer.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was excited about it. So that was in 2007. And I have to give a little backstory here because what you were saying about chasing the job for years and years, I landed 2 ID jobs within the first 3 years of graduating. It's like, hey, okay, all my other, now friends, but ex-classmates, they're in their jobs. I have a job. I got benefits. Like, okay, I'm not a failure. And then all of a sudden in 2008, I got laid off because you know what happened in 2008 with the housing crisis and it was terrible.
Right.
Yeah, and I got laid off then. So that sucked because that was my first real job. It took a little longer than most of my friends. And then I would say I hit a crisis after 2010 because I had actually was going to Art Center. I didn't start the classes. I had to withdraw because tuition was just terrible. And I was going, okay, well, I haven't been in industrial design now, so I don't think that any ID firm is going to take me. I really want games. So then I started seeking the game jobs, and it just kept going and going. And one of the things that I tell my students is if they ever start a mentorship with me, I always ask them, do you like the idea of being a concept artist, or do you actually like doing the concepting? Because to me, those are two different things. I remember when I would go on Google or when ArtStation was in its infancy, and I would look at studios and I would look at the interior of them and I would look how freaking cool they looked and just imagine myself like living in that city and working with these people and being there. And it's just like, okay, the idea I was planting in my head, and I was like, man, how many years do I have to do, put forward in this to catch it and to actually land the job? And because I knew I loved the concepting part. Like, you can tell me to do 35 different creature heads of the same species. I'd be like, I'm fine. So like, I knew I could do the work. It was mentally taxing, man. And it gets to the point where you go, is this really for me? And something happened to me 2 years ago, and it was like a light bulb. Now, by that time, I had already landed a job. Like, I worked full time for NetEase as a senior character concept artist. I already know what that felt like. I landed the job. Mind you, it was during the pandemic, so it was a little different. But I got laid off from Snail Games, and it was my dream job. I mean, it was a brand new IP. It's the IP's called For the Stars. They had already announced this, so it'll be coming out supposedly this year.
Let me know. So I want to check it out.
Yeah, and I got laid off in 2023, back when our industry really started to get punched in the gut. Like, you know, it's still going. Just read LinkedIn and you'll see. But and then that's when I looked at my YouTube channel, and I'm going, this thing has been sitting dormant for so long. I made my channel in November of 2013, and I let it sit for a year and a half. I may have put 2 or 3 videos up. This was, I think, even before you could get it monetized. And I did a couple videos in 2015 or so. Then I didn't do anything until I went to GDC in 2018. I did maybe 3 or 4 podcasts, and then I stopped. You know, my first son was born, and I put all my energy into that. And at the time, I was pretty ignorant to how important it was to actually monetize the channel and doing all that stuff. And it was funny because, like, after a decade, I had already garnered 1,000 subscribers, because that's just with me not doing anything. I may have had like 3 tutorials up, and I was like, oh well, I already got 1,000 subscribers. Let's see what happens. And then in 2023, I got laid off about a month and a half after I got divorced. And it was traumatizing to me, because it was just like 2 things happened very, very suddenly. And I had, you know, just moved out, and here I was, a single dad, and I'm just like, man, how am I going to do this? I got 2 boys, aged 7 and 5.
That's very young too.
And at the time they were 2 years younger. So and here I am. So it's like, what do I do? I looked at my YouTube, and I was like, screw it. I was like, I'm done chasing those full-time jobs where they never answer you back. And I'm just like, I know I got the skills, I know I got the experience, and let's see what happens. And the funny thing is, once I started putting my love into just doing what I really love doing, is creature design and stuff, that's when they notice you. It's the strangest thing, man. So I'm just like, I'm just going to start posting my work on LinkedIn and not obsessing about Instagram and anymore, and ArtStation. It's just like, I'm just going to draw what I love. And it's all of a sudden freelance starts coming in, mentorships start coming in. It's funny how when you don't put energy into something by chasing it, you know, the universe listens, and they actually they give back. It gives back. So here we are.
It sounds romantic, what you're saying, right? It sounds like what you're saying is romantic. But you have to put this into perspective. We are artists, right? And we're not lawyers whose job it is to, you know, stick to the facts and make sure you read the rules, and that's not the way this works, man. It's if you want to move people with what you do, you need to be moved by what you do. You have to have an emotional investment in what it is that you're producing. And, you know, industry, especially at our kind of, we kind of came into this industry at a very unique, uncertain turning point professionally. I mean, prior to us getting, you and I, specifically with the, you know, between the ages of 45 and 50 and stuff, during those years where we started getting into being professionals, I mean, before then, we had fine artists, we had illustrators, we had things like that, much more traditional. And all of a sudden, digital and 3D start to flood in. And we walked into that storm ignorantly. We didn't know what was. It was a new reality to us, right? And I feel, at least I can speak for myself, and it sounds very clearly like you've been through this too. It's that you get derailed from your emotional self, and I would argue that social media can have that same impact on you, albeit we can be a little bit nihilistic when it comes to social media and our attitude towards it, because I have a 25-year-old daughter who's got an incredibly unique voice, and a son who's 12 who's got an incredibly unique artistic voice. So I wouldn't say that social media is destroying you, but you have to have a certain level of fortitude to be able to manage this emotionally without feeling imposter syndrome, discouragement, blah, 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 blah. It takes a certain amount of emotional patience to be able to say, okay, don't stop drawing, keep going. I know your patience level only lasts around 5 minutes. Just keep drawing, man, because once you hit that 10, 15 minute mark, something's going to happen. You're going to have an aha moment. Keep going. And in our case, that aha moment took 15 years, not 15 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
It sure did, man.
You know what I'm saying? But you were talking about LinkedIn, and it made me go, I want to ask him about that. A lot of people have been saying that LinkedIn is actually starting to get kind of cool. I haven't used LinkedIn in like 5-6 years. I haven't touched it because it was kind of like this corporate type of thing. But I do use it. I have used it. But what's new with LinkedIn? Because a lot of people are using that now kind of as a social media. Like, what's up with it?
Well, LinkedIn, I've always liked LinkedIn basically because when you post your artwork, everybody that would need to see your artwork in order for you to land jobs or just, get attention from the right people are on there. So like if you post work and somebody from Blizzard sees it and they like it, well, everybody on LinkedIn that is associated with that employer that saw your work also sees what they saw. So it's almost like free distribution of your work to eyeballs that you didn't have to send it to. And it's like when I went to GDC to set up interviews for like PlayStation and all these companies, they were already on LinkedIn because it was HR. So, like when you send your work into a company, the art directors don't even see it first. It's HR because they have to screen the thing. So that's the way I always like it. And you can really build up a network. You'd be surprised at the random inboxes you get with, hey, DNEG needs help with this dragon design for a commercial, or hey, this so-and-so visual effects artist is now a director and they have to, design this creature. Can we work with you for a month? And that happens. It's great. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen on big art platforms. Like, I don't know if you remember Coraflot. There's that old school portfolio. There was Coraflot, Core 77, and then ArtStation, and
ArtStation,
and like Behance. I don't even think it happens on there.
Yeah, Behance. Yeah. Okay, but Coraflop?
Coroflot.
Coroflot. That's a terrible name.
It's.
Oh my
I don't even know if it's still
naming
around.
Your kid Coraflot. Elon Musk might. I could see him naming his kid that. Yeah. Oh my God. Jesus. Well, no wonder it didn't work. How long was that around for? Was it mainstream? Like, I don't know how popular.
Yeah, it was usually like the portfolio place for graphic designers, fashion designers, and industrial designers.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I didn't hear of it. Although I should, because industrial and fashion design are two things that I've been studying a lot lately too. Yeah, for sure. I was talking about how I like to reference things that aren't visual arts related, acting and performance and music and dance and all those types of things. There's this thread that ties all arts together. And when you go through these different learning curves, let's say you're learning about cameras, or you're learning about different dance moves, or you're learning about whatever, you realize that the learning curve and these epiphanies, these philosophies are all interconnected between all of these different arts. And I would argue, I throw chess into that at least. Philosophically, I fit it into the same category because of how it exposes the human inside, all right? And if you just look at actors, for instance, look at somebody like Meryl Streep or Willem Dafoe or Brad Pitt or any of these great actors, people who really move you on screen. They may be beautiful. They may be but ugly. They may be disgusting. They may be gorgeous. But the reason why you're intrigued by them is their authenticity. Willem Dafoe, one of my personal favorite actors, or Bill Nighy is another actor I completely adore.
Yeah.
They're either quirky or they're a little bit weird, and they've got the gap in their teeth, and their voice is this, and their body type is that, and their shoulders are bony like that. These are the reason why we love to watch them on screen is because of their authenticity. There's something about just their actors, real professional actors know the difference between acting and being.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe is who he is. And he's not trying to look pretty on camera. He's not trying to be interesting. He's not trying to be smart. He's just being himself. And for him, he's picking a role that fits his personality. But if you take Willem Dafoe and if you were to ask somebody like him, for instance, and you were to say, listen, we've got this great role. It's the super hot surfer guy. The girls are going to be going crazy for you. You're going to be getting dates like you have no idea. This is like a hot role. He'd go, well, then hire somebody who's good looking. I don't want it because I'm not. And to me, I love the fact that nobody can play a weirdo better than I can.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt is an amazing actor, not because he's gorgeous. He's an amazing actor because he has an incredibly strong sense of self. And I would argue that the things that make him the great actor that he is not his looks. Because there's a lot of good looking actors. Nobody gives a shit. Right? Yeah. It's the fact that when he plays a nut, when you can see that he's as much a nerd as he is a hottie. Right? Yeah. Yes, he's been blessed with a perfect body, but that's not what makes him famous. It's the fact that he can embody a role. He can be that. He can be vulnerable. He can be a boy. He can be ignorant. He can be impulsive, because these are all parts of his inherent personality. Same thing applies to art. Mm-hmm. Same thing applies to art. And again, allowing yourself to be ugly in a sketchbook is where it all happens. And I'm saying this, I'm not only saying this to preach the gospel. I'm saying this because I'm speaking to myself at the same time. This is something that I am guilty of right now. And the sketchbook is the reason why I called you up and I said, Bobby, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. Man, you're so therapeutic. You're just the realism and just the human that I'm listening to. The sketchbook, the camera, no fancy cameras, no fancy mics like me. It's just here, you told me you just record straight into your camera, right?
Yeah, it's I have a tripod that's broken. I need to get a new one. I lean it up against my desk so it balances the camera out, and then I just talk right into the Canon, and it works. And I didn't even know if it was going to work at first, but I mean, this is a microphone, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I just do it.
Well, that just goes to show content matters more than anything else, doesn't it? Right?
That's true.
I this teaches me that. This teaches me. I've fallen down that whole YouTuber rabbit hole with the lighting and the cameras and the mics and all that kind of fun stuff. I love it. I'm a bit of a geek, but
it looks good. Well,
thank you.
Your podcast, I mean, your studio is like enviable, man. I'm just going to say that right now. It looks good.
It's a distraction. I'm a nerd, and when I doubt myself artistically, I just decorate my space.
just do it.
No, I love it though. I'm a person who loves I think I got that from my mother. I love obsessing over things. So for me, when I learn something new, I just kind of go all in with it. And this is one of those many rabbit holes I've fallen down.
Yeah.
But thank you. I appreciate that. But this to me just means don't worry about all that crap. In fact, as I've matured as a content creator and stuff like that, I went from having a studio full of gear. 99% of it was either A, a waste of time, or B, I ended up reselling it because it just cluttered my space.
Yeah.
And I have stripped myself down to the bare essentials. My favorite mic. I've gotten rid of a table. I gave away a lot of shit to my daughter's friends or boyfriends. I just here's some free tech, and they think I'm the coolest guy for giving shit away. And I've stripped myself down to just the bare essentials: my journal, my computer, my sketchbook, my journal. That's it. Yeah. I think I said journal twice. Now I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Okay. Because this is something, again, from an artistic perspective, very personal to me. You mentioned. We spoke about anatomy, right? The kind of the hardcore fundamentals of being a good creature designer and stuff like that. But then there's the abstract. And when we get into things like insects, when we get into things like alien creatures and stuff like that, we can get a lot more playful. There's a lot, the rules loosen up a lot when it comes to that kind of a creation. And I'm curious. You had said the word ugly, you know, sometimes they're kind of ugly and gross, and you were talking about horror art and stuff like that. Oh, and by the way, I bought the movie you recommended. I'm going to watch it tonight, the one with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds. Arrival or something?
Was it Life?
Life. I'm going to be watching that tonight, by the way.
Okay.
I'm two of my favorite actors, so I'm jumping on that tonight. But you had mentioned they're horror. I know they're disgusting and ugly. But then I would correct you in saying they're not ugly, are they? Like creatures and monsters and stuff, yeah, they have that dark, gross element to it. But they're also beautiful aesthetically, right?
Yeah.
There's, you know, if you ask Guillermo del Toro, for instance, why does he create disgusting, scary horror creatures? He says very unapologetically, I don't consider them disgusting. I consider them beautiful. They're beautiful to me. They're beautiful in their weirdness. They're beautiful in their shape and in their texture and in their all of these things. The abstract, emotional side of creature design, the creatures, the insects, the monsters, the shapes. What is it about that excites you artistically? Could you pinpoint it?
I think it has to deal with maybe knowing horror movies so well the way I do and just growing up on that. So anytime that I draw a creature, it's why my stuff is mostly scary. And I get excited when things look scary just because that excites me. And maybe it's like a primal thing. I have no idea, man. I've been questioned by many religious people on my Instagram, my YouTube. It's just like, yo, what's wrong with you, man? Like, why aren't you drawing unicorns and happy elves and stuff? And I'm like, because it bores me. I don't know. You know, I remember watching when I was, 7 years old, I was watching the Wizard Masters, you know, Freddy Krueger 3, when the giant Freddy head came out of the ground and started to eat her. And I'm just like, yes. I was like, yes.
That gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Horrible scene in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It's just, when I think of creatures, I'm just like, okay, how can we make it creepy and realistic and not fluffy and cute?
Because I grew up in a cartoon world, to me, facial expressions, body language, etc., the muscles of the face, the movements of the face was something I studied ad nauseum. And making that, having that epiphany, if you look at a Souls game, with maybe the kind of exception of a game like Sekiro, for instance, which is more human-based, but if you look at the Souls series, the Elden Rings and the Bloodborns and the Dark Soulses, they are very faceless. And when there are faces, they're very hollow. They're very expressionless. And then if you compare that to the Jabberwockies, the moment you pull a face out of it, all of a sudden, all of that artistic and creative and human energy has to go somewhere. And it seeps, it bleeds into the rest of the form. And that to me was one of the biggest epiphanies I had. It's the moment I would stick a face on something, it would humanize it. And that took all the attention. It stole the spotlight creatively. And all of a sudden I started to said, no, I'm not allowed to draw a face. I have to express through the anatomy. I have to express through the fabric. I have to express through the weight, through the wrinkles, through the texture, through the overgrowth. All of a sudden, honestly, things just started to explode artistically for me. I didn't realize what a bottleneck that face was. Do you feel that too? Because I look at your creature designs and I can see a person who's very comfortable, despite all of that anatomical foundation and accuracy. I see somebody who's very liberal, who's very expressive in many different types of ways. How does that resonate with you?
So whenever I do creatures, if I do something in the face, I have to make sure that those elements are put throughout the rest of the body, or else there's going to be a disconnect. So with me and putting emotions in creatures that may not even be from Earth, you know, maybe they're demons from another dimension or something, or bulbous, merciless black eyes like a squid or a shark. there's still other ways to convey emotion. So age, wrinkles, scarring, crooked teeth that don't, you can't bite down all the way, just something unique about it. But like with me, if I draw something creepy, I'll do something subtle with the face that almost kind of seems revolting. Like I'll spread the eyes out a little bit farther than they should be spread. Like if you've seen the movie Splice, with Adrian Brody. I don't know if you've seen that. No. It's a very disturbing movie, man. But yeah, they create this female creature and her eyes are spread apart. You just have to see it. It's crazy. But anyway, it just kind of makes you think about it in a strange way, almost like an uncomfortable way, and then you just start moving down the body and just be like, oh, okay, so that face has protruding cheekbones. Where can I put other bony parts in the body that protrude like that? Oh, the elbows. Oh, the forearm. So that's the way I think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just kind of like understanding how your mind travels through a form. It's so tricky too, isn't it? Like there's a freedom with creature design, right? You can abstract things. You don't necessarily have to adhere yourself to human proportions so that it looks believable, so that it looks aesthetic, so it looks balanced. You can break that to a certain degree. But then the challenge of the creature designer is making it believable, making it cohesive, making it relatable. Can be really, really tricky. How you tether that design into something that people can immediately identify as being creepy or being adorable or being unsettling. This is the magic of the creature designer. And that's the challenge very often. And just listening to how you you'll allow yourself to break free from that technical foundation, but then you have to bring it back. So there's a lot of this kind of mental juggling, this discipline that goes into stepping back from your work and being able to look at it objectively. I think that's an important professional skill, is to be able to just be self-aware. What you're doing, right? Being able to look at your stuff from a third person's perspective and say, okay, how would this be interpreted from an audience? Is there anything about this communication that I'm doing? Can I refine this design in a way that I know what I want, but is everybody else going to see it? Right? So kind of take your ego out of it and say, I know I don't want to admit that I might not nail something on the first shot, but really honestly, look at your stuff. Look at your drawings and say, how are other people going to interpret this? Am I communicating that clearly enough? And going back and revisiting that and polishing that until eventually it goes, okay, now it clicks. Now it makes sense. And I'm sure you can agree just as much as I feel when I'm doing my drawings is I never get it 100%. At a certain point you got to go, okay, Adam, just pull the goddamn plug. You're done. You can keep fixing this forever, but just ship it, just ship it, get it out of there. Yeah. It's
like what you'd mentioned about filming, and sometimes your sketches aren't a home run. It's part of that process where you just have to just remain disciplined and go, I'm just going to finish this and consider it a learning experience, because it doesn't matter how many years you draw, you're going to draw stuff that you are disappointed in. When you enter that flow state on that certain artwork, you're just like, I know this is going to be good because the shapes feel good. And it just flows from one end to the other. The lighting's right. It's like, yes, now I got to do this every freaking time. And it's hard, man. But when you look at your work objectively, you just have to step back and go, okay, on to the next one. And I think a lot of aspiring artists can't do that because they feel like what they're drawing in that moment is end all be all. And it's way easier said than done. It really is. I totally get it.
Well, you said something. You said something again in one of your videos. I don't know if you mentioned it today yet. You were talking about keeping your mistakes on the page. Don't erase it, right?
Don't erase.
You have to be able to observe your mistake. And I love that philosophy, because if you take this from, again, if I use a chess analogy, you can't undo a chess move.
Right.
Once it's done, well, if you're playing live, that is, if once it's done, you have to live with that mistake. Now, an amateur will get pissed off and turn the game off. Close the app the minute the game's over. Screw this, I lost. A professional goes back, rewatches the game, watches the analysis, and goes, where did I screw up?
Yep.
What mistake did I make? They lean in and learn from the mistake. You can't do that with a Control-Z. You can't, because you're deleting that opportunity to learn. Again, this is why sketchbooks are so powerful. It's crazy big aha moment I have had this week. Just going, yeah, I've been way too reliant on that Control-Z.
Yes, and to piggyback on that, I've had several listeners over the past couple of years comment whenever I tell them don't use an eraser, and they'll clap back with, well, it's a tool, it puts highlights in your work, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, wait a second. I was like, yes, it can do that, but the whole reason an eraser is even made is to take away. It's not to add. So if you shaded correctly, you wouldn't need that eraser. So you need to learn how to shade. That way, you won't rely on that tool anymore. And it's nothing personal against the person using an eraser. I have seen some really cool things done with an eraser, but it's like, why would you have to rely on something that's supposed to take it away like that? Yeah. And, if you want to get even more pure, and it'll probably ruffle some feathers too, blending sticks. Okay. It's like you either have the pencil to shade, you either have your finger, which is a last resort, and you don't ever want to smudge your pencil to shade. That's a drawing hack that's not...
It's blasphemy.
It's not good.
You're going straight down.
And 3, you have the blending stick that's supposed to blend the graphite together. I totally get it. I've actually used those in the past, and they do work.
Too,
yeah. But however, if you learn hand pressure and give yourself that time to learn, don't push hard here, push harder there, blend it together, learn that muscle coordination. Guess what? Those skills on traditional paper transfers to digital world. And not only does it transfer, you just skipped a ton of steps in learning how to sketch digitally, because how many times have we heard, oh, what brush did you use? Oh, wait, like what brush are you using to sketch with? And it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like you're going to sketch well. I mean, Photoshop comes standard with that, what is that brush called? The Kyle Ultimate Pencil Hard. It's like an HB pencil or whatever.
I actually downloaded some Kyle brushes this week, yeah.
Yeah, they're great. It's a good pencil brush. It mimics graphite pretty well. It's all you need. It's all you need. And, it just depends on how well you learned to like line thickness and line quality on real paper. Here I am using my pinky to raise the palm of my hand off ever so slightly on the paper, and I'm brushing it across the paper, and I'm pushing lighter or harder, making the stroke darker or lighter at the end. That is the essence of shading. It's the essence of drawing, and it's just loosening up so you don't become obsessed about it. Not obsessed about like perfect lines. That's why people do cartoons. Like cartoony stuff. They obsess about the line. So just let yourself go. Just do it.
Yeah. Speaking of equipment, again, I'm asking you these questions purely selfishly, but I'm sure a lot of other people are going to be interested too. I watching your videos, I'd noticed that you mentioned you use Moleskine sketchbooks, which I love hearing because those are my absolute favorite. I love Moleskine. I think they're the best of the best. So if anybody's curious about the equipment that you use, which is very simple stuff, the size of the books, the type of paper you like, the books, the pens, etc. What kind of stuff do you generally enjoy working on the most?
So I love sketching with Moleskine, preferably the hardback versions, because if you get the softback, the paper's a little thinner, which is okay, but a lot of the work shows through. Black Prismacolor pencil for the really dark darks. And then
which Prismacolor pencil, by the way? Because I know there's different types of them.
It's the PC 935. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And then Faber-Castell 4B. The reason I use that particular pencil is because it allows me to get dark, medium, and light, and it's pretty nice. There's others too. Like you can use just the standard H, and you can do the same thing. But I don't really like getting higher than a 4. And then ballpoint pen. what do I use?
Like just a standard Bic pens, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the one that I like the best that they make is the Bic Ultra Round Stick Grip.
Okay.
It's the pen where it has like that velvety, rubbery type of grip in the middle of the pen.
Feels nice on the hand, yeah.
Yeah. I've also noticed that the ink is a little different coming out of those pens. It's almost a little softer, so I like using that. Yeah. And let's see, the tablet that I use. It's a good old-fashioned Intuos 5. It's the
nice
medium tablet. And then my microphone is Zeal Sound.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Well, thank you, because I never know. And then...
No, it sounds great. It sounds great.
The lighting I use for my actual drawing is a Torgem light.
Okay.
And then the camera is the Canon... Let's see, hold on a second. I get the entire title. Canon EOS Rebel T7.
Damn, that's old school.
Yeah.
And what is it a lens? That has a removable lens, isn't it?
Yes.
What kind of lens do you use?
I don't know. I haven't changed it. I'm using a 58 millimeter right now.
58. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the Rebel is a crop sensor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it does.
Lastly, where do all of your socials, your LinkedIn, anything, anywhere you want people to find you, potential employers or students or anything, where can people find you? I'll also put it up on screen when I'm editing as well.
Well, I teach an online course called Creature Design for Film and Games at CGMA, so Computer Graphics Master Academy. I've been with them for 9 years.
Wow.
And we just started the summer term, but in September when the fall term, October when the fall term is starting, they'll have early sign-ups. So I can give you the link to show that. But it's an 8-week course, and we go through fundamentals of creature design from thumbnails to refinement. We do muscles, skeletal systems, head design, all that, and then final presentation.
Holy smokes. Okay.
Yeah, and then I run a Discord channel because of my YouTube channel. So it's called Creature Design Workshop. And it's a bustling community. I think we have about 8,000 members now. It just keeps going.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I made the channel public. It originally started just for my mentorship, and then all of a sudden I opened it, the floodgates. And the other thing I will mention, these are some sections that really keep people engaged. One, allow people to show their pet pics. Okay.
Oh, for sure. That's a prerequisite, by the way. In my
pet pics.
If you don't see cat and dog pics, then you're not allowed.
Yes. Studio pics are another big one.
Okay. Cool.
Everybody loves showing their workspace. And 3, contests. So we have a monthly creature design contest. And
wonderful.
Yeah, I give a brief on the first of every month. And, it's supposed to mimic what they would see from a client as close as possible.
Okay.
Sometimes it's vague, sometimes it's more in depth, and then they have at it. So we have our own voting systems, and the Discord evolves over time. So it's not going to be this pristine launchable pad like right away. Just allow it to organically grow.
Okay. I'm going to check it out for sure.
Awesome.
So we have your Discord, we have your CGMA course. Anything else you want people to know about?
If there are any aspiring concept artists out there that want to be mentored, I keep things super easy. I run it through that Discord. So you can DM me and contact me through there if you want to keep it more private. I mean, you can email me to bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. And Adam, you already have that. But yeah, we set up your goals, short-term and long-term. Find out where you want to go. Do you want to become a better artist just to be able to draw well? Do you want to, get a job in the industry and all that? I'll tell you where you're at. If you're really bad or if you're good or you're mediocre, give it to you. I just try to give what a lot of teachers don't give students, and that's just the honest truth.
Oh, but that's wonderful. I mean, I don't think I've listened to a ton of your advice and feedback and stuff like that. Yeah, you're honest, but you get straight to the source of the wound and you heal it. And you don't. I've never listened to any of your stuff and felt, oh, geez, this guy's a bit heavy. Istabrak talks very often about how some people get all butthurt about the fact that she's blunt. She's a professional artist, for God's sake. She knows what she's talking about. You came to learn. She's not mean about it. She's just honest.
The people that get upset are the people that don't want to learn, and they're going to suck for years.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And then they'll get over themselves, and then they'll get better.
Yeah, so. It's solve the ego problem first.
Yeah.
Learn this just to be addressed. It's not a personal attack. It's just you need a solution. That's how you're gonna get it done. You need to grab the wrench before you can fix your bike. It's just the way that works. Right?
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, listen, just as if I could be the example myself, I'm a teacher. I'm a YouTuber. I run a school. I'm a pro. I've been doing this forever. I know everything. Okay? I'm just saying. It's just fact. No, I don't. And when I started watching your videos last week, again, I'm still butthurt about that stupid algorithm, but when I started watching your stuff last week, it was so invigorating being an amateur again. Oh, God. I love sucking so bad. It's so... in fact, I'm going to make a whole video called "Being an Amateur is So Much More Fun." Already have it written down. I've got to use the Sensama app. I've got it written down there. Being an amateur is so much more fun than being a pro, because it's just, if you can just throw yourself into amateur mode and just be picked apart and pull yourself back together again, you've just got this buffet of information. And when I started watching your videos, all of a sudden I realized there's an entire half of my brain as a creature designer I have not cultivated yet. I've been so caught up in the Dark Souls bipedal thing that there's just all these principles I just ignored. Yeah. It just wasn't it wasn't in my vocabulary yet. And I feel like visiting your channel is like visiting this beautiful foreign country where everybody speaks a different language.
Oh,
and all of a sudden
that's very kind of you to say, man. Thank you.
It's just honest to goodness. You're such a gift. You're such a gift. And you're so generous with the work that you share and your knowledge that you share. Jesus, if your course is even a smidgen more than what you offer online, then people have got a hell of a ride ahead of them. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder, is what I mentioned at the beginning, if there are artists that you love that aren't on the list in the description of my video, let me know, because as you can see by this lovely conversation me and Bobby just had, well, recommending one artist can change a person's life. And I know that's been the case with you, Bobby, and to a lot of the people whose lives you influence in a wonderful way. And all I can say is thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So to that, I say, Bobby, thank you for joining me. And everybody, thank you for sticking it out this far. Subscribe to Bobby's channel and mine and everybody in that list, because if you know anything about algorithms, they don't give a crap about artists. So we have to hack the algorithm by just flooding our subscriptions with nothing but artists. Okay. Thank you for watching, everybody.